what we're going to cover, learn a bit about the link between gut and mental health. I don't really need to read all of this since you're seeing it. Stress and microbiome, daily practices we can make, the breathing exercises, which I will just describe. Yesterday at the luncheon, we all breathed together, but I think I'm describing it and, and helping you find a personal plan of action. And this is my family. I don't know. You've met my son, I think. That's my son in the middle, and that's my husband to the right. We were at a lovely wedding of a friend. And one of the reasons I really got into health and wellness was because of my son, because he had so many health issues, or has had so many health issues over the years, starting at 17 months. He was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, and the doctors had no idea what to do with a 17-month-old with type 1 diabetes. So they knew keeping blood sugars low was good for adults, so they tried that with him, and he ended up with brain injury from multiple hypoglycemic episodes. And it caused, in particular, short-term memory loss. So it happened during a developmental stage that he was at in the like 20 to 24 months, and you're developing that ability to code short-term memory and working memory. And so he doesn't really have that. Under the doctor's care, they put him on the American Diabetes Association diet, which I thought was healthy and fine, and the rest of us thrived on it, and he just kept getting sicker and sicker and sicker. It was many years later that we discovered that basically he was getting leaky gut syndrome, but the doctors didn't even know. It wasn't even on their radar that time, which would be like 17, 18 years ago. My goodness. He developed a severe anxiety disorder, which just kept getting worse. And even under the care of who we found was, researched, and it was the top psychiatrist in North Carolina. But look at that. That's sort of what we feel. That's what my son feels about that psychiatrist now, because all he really wanted to do was try one medication after another, and then take another one to counter out side effects of the first one, and then a third one to counter out side effects of the two others. And with every medication, my son got more and more sick and more anxious. And really, by the time he was 18 years old, he was basically confined to his bedroom and in a fetal position in his bed, or screaming because he hurt so much. And he was so anxious. He was in fight or flight constantly. About when he was 11 or 12, when he entered middle school, I realized that even though he did fairly well thrive in elementary school with the teachers, caring for him, there's like the surrogate moms. In middle school, he had trouble going from room to room, learning what the different teachers wanted of him, and had some behavioral problems, and ended up actually getting kicked out of middle school in 4 days. So I started homeschooling him. Before then, I had spent 25 years in medical research, in particular the last 10 years looking at the inflammatory process and looking at the cytokine cascade of individuals with different autoimmune disorders, and looking at how RNA up and down regulates the proteins, the cytokines. So I left that job to come home and stay with Kevin and homeschool Kevin. And I went a little stir crazy. So at that point, decided to start my USANA business and start working from home. And the combination of what I learned through other practitioners, practitioners who were in USANA, and just learning all about what USANA had to offer, and looking at help for my son, it really branched me out into a more holistic approach to health, as opposed to, I was very much the medical school, exactly, the doctors, they should be knowing what's right, until I had this experience. So when he was 18, we took him out to Minnesota to meet with a functional neurologist who was also a practitioner affiliated with USANA Health Sciences, and gave lectures, gave talks that I had heard all about the gut-brain connection. I mean, an awful lot about neurology and brain health. So I took my son out to him, and he immediately went, okay, we got to take care of his gut. That's what we have to heal, which was an amazing experience because not a single doctor here in North Carolina mentioned that. But if you look at this circle, the gut, when it's malfunctioning, right here, type 1 diabetes, if you can see it, it's kind of tiny. So Kevin had type 1 diabetes. When he was about 8, he ended up with Hashimoto's, so he had low thyroid disease. He actually had autoimmune disease to his gut. His liver had started shutting down, and ultimately his brain started shutting down, especially his left brain. That's the injury is. And huge anxiety, stress, depression, major depression. Some of the psychotropic drugs kind of aided in that depression, and insomnia. He couldn't sleep. So here we go. He's got many of these, and even oral health. He had issues with a lot of cavities, and I think that had to do with some of the drugs that he was taking. So there definitely is a gut-brain connection we saw in our child. It got me interested in. Dysbiosis is what they call when there is an imbalance in the microbiome, in the microflora of the gut. And I had seen, I was reading charts of the patients we were enrolling in our research studies. And I remember almost all of them had dysbiosis in part of their chart. And they had autoimmune disease. Very interesting. I didn't get that connection until later. It's like, oh, I thought those were two separate things. But now they believe that with chronic dysbiosis, it leads to autoimmune diseases. It just messes with the immune system. So common symptoms of dysbiosis. And at the time when I was doing research, I really looked at these. I was thinking, okay, they have constipation, diarrhea, upset stomach, all these that sound like, yeah, your gut's not well. But there's a lot of things, symptoms that don't seem to be readily, related to gut issues. And I often talk to people even now who say, oh, I don't have any gut issues, but I have these other symptoms. It's like, even if you don't feel like you're having stomach problems, like you're not getting sick to your stomach or having constipation or diarrhea, you still could be, the stomach microbiome could be off and causing some symptoms. Especially with the brain, the gut is our second brain. The organisms, about 90% of the cells in our body are not human, which it's absolutely amazing. Wow. Absolutely amazing. 90%. So we have microorganisms, fungi, and viruses in our gut, all through our gut, and in our mouth, and on our skin. I mean, just everywhere. And when you're just counting number of cells, there's trillions of these cells. And so obviously they have a great deal to do with the state of our health. So actually more neurotransmitters are made in the gut than the brain. So Kevin was put on serotonin uptake inhibitors and all kinds of things, trying to increase the serotonin, but they weren't addressing the gut issue. And so it really wasn't working. And he also had, I got to think every time I say this,
norepinephrine. Norepinephrine. Yep.
I said it yesterday in the talk perfectly.
That's all right. It's just us. We don't care. It's late at night.
It's late at night. But if you see this, when he didn't have that, he had no focus. He had fight or flight. He had problems with memory retrieval, the dopamine. He was just not motivated to do anything. He was very depressed, not much pleasure. And he had trouble relaxing. So, it's a very negative little child, which was tough. And I worked so much on gratitude things for him, which I found out later scientifically that was a good thing to do.
Mm.
So obviously, we're looking at this gut-brain connection. We want to focus on the gut for overall health. So just simple steps that you can do every day is when you eat, chew thoroughly. It says at least 30 times. I've heard 100 times. I can't imagine sitting there and chewing each bite 100 times. 30 is a reach for me. But if I think 30, I'm going to at least get 20 or 15 or 20, You want to have the food almost liquid before you swallow it. You want to eat healthy whole foods, especially raw foods. It's interesting because their digestion starts in your mouth and, a lot of enzymes in your mouth. And you want to be able to get that digestion started when you're swallowing hunks of food. Like people often tend to swallow a hunk of meat and it doesn't really digest well in your stomach unless the acidity of your stomach is pretty high. I mean, that helps too. Eat healthy whole foods, which I think almost everybody interested in what I have to say at all kind of understand this. But 9 to 12 servings a day, even though the servings are like half a cup, that's a lot of vegetables. And you want to include prebiotics, which are the fiber and the materials that your microbiome, that your microorganisms love to eat. And probiotics. I mean, add some good, if you're healing a gut, you want to add some probiotics. And I use a wide variety. USANA has a really good variety that's easy because it's in a little stick pack and you can travel with it, which is nice. It doesn't need to be refrigerated. And it also is stable through the stomach. Some of them you buy over counter are not stable through the stomach. They get killed off in the stomach. And it encourages other ones. But with Kevin, I also encourage, or with many people, I also encourage fermented vegetables. Somebody said wine. I'm not sure that counts. And my brother said pickled pig's feet. And I'm like, no, I don't think that counts either. Let's go for the vegetables like sauerkraut or kimchi a lot of other cultures have a fermented food.
Kombucha. Is kombucha one of those?
Kombucha is one of those. Water kefir is one of those. Like milk kefir, if you can have the milk, if you can have the lactate milk kefir. And somebody said they're sweet. They're not sweet because the microorganisms, when you're fermenting them, they're eating the sugar.
Yeah.
And it's really not much sugar when you drink it. So those are great. I even use some probiotics from some other companies too. There's some different spores and things for Kevin because he just needs a lot. Digestive enzymes, and sometimes people need HCl. That's a thing to talk to a functional doctor about if you need it. But you need your gut. You need your gut to be acidic to be able to start that digestive process in the stomach part. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of people do the apple cider vinegar in water or the lemon in water. It's funny, it seems backwards, but drinking something like that acidic, not a soda, not acidic soda, but a real product that's acidic, real food kind of product that's acidic, helps your digestion, helps your gut, helps the whole process, and helps your body be a little more alkaline. So it seems backwards, but you have to digest well for your body to be alkaline. And then restful sleep is so important. You could be doing everything right, and if you don't get your sleep, you're going to be wearing your body down. And often people are waking up in the middle of the night and not really knowing why. And usually what that means is the liver is working overtime. And that's what would happen to Kevin. He'd wake up about 2 a.m. and wander around, and my stomach hurts and this. And the liver functions when we sleep. That's when it's busy detoxing. So the phase 1, which is breaking down the fats and the larger molecules, and the phase 2 is turning them into things that we can eliminate. That happens usually at night. And this product from USANA really is, I think, one that saved my son's life. It has all the ingredients you want to support your liver. And a lot of people are getting fatty liver disease even without, it used to be you only got that if you drank too much alcohol. But now there's plenty of people who are getting this fatty liver disease. And I think it's a lot of because of our diet and some other things, which we'll talk about later. But this combination does cell signaling to increase the glutathione pathway. So that glutathione that most people have heard of, that's that detoxification pathway. This supports that pathway and increases that. And with Kevin's liver shutting down, I was, first of all, worried, is this going to be too much for him? But we really reviewed it. There was clinical trials. And when I started him on this, it really helped. So in general, what can we all do? We can avoid foods that stress the gut. So reduce all these things, sugar, and white processed foods, which is basically sugar, corn syrup, fructose corn syrup, which someone yesterday said, yeah, they're starting to call it different things now. So it'd be nice to know what they call that now on the labels. Anything that's on a label that has sugar, any kind of form of sugar, really high, at one of the first ingredients, I would avoid. Artificial sweeteners, yeah, we know those are not good. When Kevin was little, when he was still a toddler, the doctor said, his endocrinologist said, anything you can find that has aspartame in it, give that to him. I'm like, oh gosh. In hindsight, I didn't do it for very long, thank goodness, because almost immediately I started seeing him stutter, have twitches, have rolling eye, little tics that he couldn't control. It was definitely working on his neural pathways. Caffeine, I think a little bit of caffeine is fine. There are some good benefits, but this is meaning like, no, don't drink coffee all day long. Alcohol, again, alcohol is kind of like it's a sugar. I mean, it acts as a sugar in your body, and a little bit is fine. But if someone feels like they have to have a drink every single night, there's something going on. And of course, packaged foods. But there's lots of stuff we can eat. Really, we can eat a lot of different things and delicious things. So, and this is just a few of them, but these are in particular good for the gut, unless you're a person who has a specific sensitivity to one of these. We have to pay attention to that. And fiber is one of those things that if someone is having gut issues, yes, fiber is important, but I want them to, if they get a fiber product, we do have a nice fiber product, and it has prebiotics in it and all kinds of yummy, great things in it. But I would not start with a full dose. I would start small, because if you go from 5 grams of fiber to 30 grams of, you're gonna just sweep your whole digestive system. That won't be good. Most people cheer when they see dark chocolate and tea. So the vagus nerve, have you heard conversations about the vagus nerve?
It's been a while, but yes.
Yeah. Okay. So this is a nerve that goes from somewhere near the base of the brain, and it goes down to the gut. There has been a lot of research on this at Duke. And if you were interested, I can send you the link. But what was thought for quite a few years was that the bacteria in the gut, well, we know they produce hormones that we're using and the neurotransmitters. And so they produce things that then gradually went through the lymph system up to the brain or even through the vagus nerve up and did, affected the brain that way through hormonally. But what their research, which just I think came out a couple of years ago, they said they have found an electronic. So the synapses are the little, electronic cells that zap actually a little electricity from your brain so you can think. And they actually have some along the vagus nerve down to the gut too. So they said a lot of things, this influence is electronically instead of just this slow secretion. So it's very interesting how quickly this brain-gut relationship goes back and forth. And it often brings on anxiety, moods, different behaviors when your gut is acting out. So stress, obviously, and it goes the other way. If you're under a lot of stress, that vagus nerve is going to send those electronic pulses down to the gut and cause the gut to dysregulate. So it's back and forth. It's a two-way street. So these are wonderful approaches to lower stress and actually help heal the gut. We already talked about the dietary and eliminate inflammatory foods. Often people are sensitive to particular foods, and that's individual to them. So that's something that a food journal or there are some blood tests, different kinds of blood tests if you go to a functional physician. Or actually, I have a resource for that too, if you want to find out and see. Intermittent fasting, they're not really talking about, well, actually, there's a lot of fasting in different cultures. And in the most simplistic way, it's a rest for your digestive system and really totally emptying your digestive system. Because when they used to be taught, eat every 2 hours or eat every 3 hours, and actually your digestive system, you never get that rest and relax. And if you do intermittent fasting, I do it by skipping any kind of bedtime snack. I just eat my dinner, and then it's maybe 12 hours before I'm eating breakfast. The other thing, it's so important what you eat for breakfast. So obviously, when I was in the lab and I was popping in a hurry and popping by the cafeteria and grabbing one of their cream-filled donuts, that was not the best choice for starting the day. I was also drinking coffee all day long, which was, I'm sure, one of the reasons was because I had that sugar spike in the morning, and then I kept crashing, so I'd have some coffee and crash and have some coffee. That's not good for us. That increases a lot of inflammation. But there's some other things that really help us with stress, which actually ultimately helps our gut health. And the gratitude, meditation on gratitude, laughing with friends, or laughter yoga, or laughing watching a funny movie, that really can relieve a lot of stress. Meditation, they said meditation in particular, if you're meditating and including gratitude in that meditation, helps more. Nice uplifting music, speaking calmly, which is interesting. You'd think yelling would help your stress, but actually if you calm down, you're listening to yourself. Deep breathing, yoga, Pilates, these are all mindful movement. Even a little more higher exercise is great. And Amanda, I know that you teach yoga, don't you?
And strength.
Yeah, and strength. Okay, so actually, I kind of I didn't have enough room on this slide to put everything, and they definitely said the strength training helps. All that is good for our overall health. It has this little side benefit of helping our digestion too. Getting a massage, acupuncture. Someone yesterday said Reiki, muscle relaxation which is the one where you're basically meditating, but you're going muscle by muscle up your arm, to clench and relax, clench and relax. My son does that every single morning. An interesting cold shower. I wouldn't have thought that, but I do remember at Sonobeef where I was trained, they really wanted people to have intermittent warm, cold. In fact, they put it on purpose. I thought the shower was broken, but they did warm and then they blast you with cold. That actually stimulates the vagus nerve directly and relaxes you, calms you down, which is interesting. And then we go to the diet. I'm sitting here. Where's the click? And this is where just breathe. Now, when we're in a room together, I'll have us breathe together. But there are many different ways to do it, and people share different ways. The way I've learned how to do it is really to, first of all, put one hand on your upper chest, one hand on your stomach, and you can do this lying down or seated with both feet on the floor, not crossed legs. And then just inhale through your nose to about 8 counts, pause, and while you're inhaling, you're feeling the hand on your stomach go out, go out, if you know what I mean. And then you pause, and then you breathe out. You breathe out with slightly pursed lips and make it audible, like a, not like you're whistling, but a little fatter that, but having that audible, that part really stimulates and works on the vagus nerve, which is really nice. And just do that for a few minutes. It calms you down. Someone else who I trust immensely, the two nostril version where you close one nostril, breathe in, and then you move your finger and do the other nostril, breathe out. And that also stimulates the vagus nerve. There's a number of different ways, but basically diaphragm, breathing through your diaphragm, not when you're anxious or just heard some bad news and you start breathing through your chest and kind of hyperventilating a little bit. This way, the nose one, the nostril one, or the other one is a great way to calm yourself down in a stressful situation. And I don't know, lots of people have found that to be extremely helpful. And it's just a good practice to do. The way I meditate is thinking of the breathing while I'm doing Pilates. I like that because the little hamster in my brain doesn't start telling me things I need to be doing. I have to think of the movement and I think of the breath. So that's basically it. Now, what we didn't cover yet is figuring out your own personal plan. And I'd love to help you or anyone who is watching this in the recording, help them with a 28-day program. This program starts up September 15th. And what's nice about it is I am partnered with 3 functional physicians, 1 psychologist, and then a number of health coaches. And I'm sort of the token scientist. I'm always the token scientist. But we work together to help guide you through 28 days of focusing on the digestion and focusing on the brain and improving your general mood and improving just the way you look at things. But a lot of it is physical. It's like healing the gut at the same time. Now, we have actually are all donating our time because we feel like this is so much important. We have a private Facebook group where anyone doing the 28-day program has access to all these functional physicians, all these people who are so knowledgeable and bring their own perspective, and you're able to ask questions of any of them during that 28 days. It's just pretty phenomenal. And so here's some benefits of that 28-day program. You can get the advice from top experts, and you can send them a private message if you don't want to post something on the Facebook page, and they'll answer you and talk about, okay, so what, I'm having these symptoms and I need to know, what's the best way to work through it. I have, for me, I actually work very personally with anyone who's doing this program too. So I'm sort of the personal accountability and personal coach. They're bringing in all the latest research on nutritional science. They'll answer your questions. Of course, you get the health benefits of detoxification. We've written together a free ebook, which is really wonderful. It talks a lot about the digestive process. And I have a series of, you have the ebook, but then I have a series of breaking it down into sections. It's not a terribly long ebook, but it's very manageable, lots of information. You learn different daily practices. People who are having belly bloat and fatigue or brain fog, they really find significant health benefits. And during those 28 days, you find out exactly what works for you and what you want to do, how you want to incorporate, what you want to incorporate into your lifestyle. And definitely we work on having you improve your sleep, having that. So this is the program. We are dedicating our time to helping support and the accountability in the program. But the cost are products that support your journey in this program. And I have 2 packages here, which are packages that USANA offers, the Digestion and Detox package. They have a phenomenal Balance Your Belly package, which is significantly discounted. But then I also like to, if someone wants to talk to me, contact me and let me guide and listen for specific symptoms or specific needs and guide what might be something that would work really personally for the individual. I do that too. And if anybody's interested in this at all, like I said, it starts on September 15th. So anytime between now and then, you can reach out and contact me for a conversation. And there's my contact information. And we do have other Gut Matters coaches, and Brenda actually is one here too. She's on this call. So if someone came on, if she shared this and someone came on and listened to this, but knows Brenda, definitely contact Brenda on how to participate. If not, there's my contact information below. I love texts, and emails are great too. And you can learn more about me on my website. So I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to this, and I hope you learned something. You have any questions at all?
No, I don't think so. I think it was really, really interesting, really helpful. I'm someone who has an autoimmune disease as well. So,
okay, well, what I'm going to do is whoops. Oh, here we go. What I'm going to do is